There are some things related to prepping that you can never have enough of. Food, water, the bare necessities that you need to survive. However, in the current market of 2021, there are some things you should probably be trying to get right now before they become unavailable. So, in this video, we're going to talk about the top 5 preps that you should be getting right now. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about the top 5 preps that you should be getting right now based on the supply chain issues, based on shortages, and based on going into a very busy consumerism season, which is coming right around the corner. So I want to make sure you're ahead of the curve and able to prepare in the way that you need to while everybody else is still lagging behind. And if you don't want to lag behind and you want to make sure you survive an SHTF event, then hit the subscribe button below, because hopefully these videos can motivate you, or if anything, maybe remind you of things you may have forgotten about, or maybe you didn't know about at all. Okay, so number 1 on the list is going to be electronics. Electronics are in high demand in every single industry, and when it comes to consumerism, a top tier item. And they will be heavily targeted during the holiday season, which is on its way. And the 3 busiest days for retail have already been identified here in 2021, which will be Black Friday, okay, the Thursday before Christmas, which is December 23rd, and the Saturday before Christmas, which is December 18th. So, all of those days are on their way, which means, especially in the realm of electronics, which we all know are very popular during the holidays, that entire market's gonna be hit very hard, and the supply is just not there to meet demand. But we're talking about being prepared. So the electronics categories that you should be paying attention to right now in the sense of prepping are gonna be communication devices, your radios, all of your ability to communicate in the sense of cell phones or whatever else it is that you need in order to maintain comms, your power sources, whether or not that is fuel generators, whether or not that's solar generators, whether or not that's anything that can provide you additional power during an emergency, those are definitely on the list as well. You have medical equipment, which is definitely huge, especially just basic small electronic items people don't think about, like a diabetes tester for your blood sugar level, okay? Electro-optics are another big category. They're gonna be hit very hard. And if you need things like a laser rangefinder, now's probably the time to start getting it, because not only will holiday season affect these things, but they're also in high demand when it comes to places like the military and police and all kinds of stuff going on around the world. So flashlights is another big department in the electronics category for prepping, which you should definitely be acquiring now, because most flashlights, right, are LED nowadays, which utilizes a semiconductor, and that's where a huge shortage exists right now. So electronics should be huge on your prepping right this second, and you should understand that, yes, you gotta have food, you gotta have water, you gotta have all those things. But these are the things that are gonna be affected very soon, and these are the things that we still need, and we might be putting off because of buying some of the more, core necessities. But I just want you to be aware that if you wait too long, you might not be able to get what it is that you want or need. So, moving on from electronics, we're gonna go to number 2, okay? Number 2 is gonna be, this is a fun one, FAA items, okay? Things that require this big old $200 tax stamp, all right? So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just say that FAA items are things that I'm not going to show you right now, and I'm also not going to allude to what they could be or not be, but you could easily find out what it is that you have to acquire and what information you have to send via the ATF in order to get these items, right? The reason I'm telling you about them right now is because they're always under scrutiny of legislation. There's always the raw materials situation, especially when you're talking about things like titanium that could be hugely affecting that market soon here. But another thing you need to understand about FAA items is that they have a huge turnaround time. The wait is very long, but it definitely can be worth it, because there are some items related to NFA tax stamps that should be on your list of preparedness if they aren't already. And right now, from what I understand, the wait times are anywhere between 6 months and 10 months, as you can see right here on this handy graph. So what that should tell you is that a lot of things can change over the next 6 to 10 months, and that if you wait until later, it'll just take that much longer to get the thing that might make things a little bit easier for you in an SHTF scenario that you might never receive if you wait too long to try to acquire. The other thing to consider is that we're talking about things like government shutdown right now, and all of these things are delayed even further during a government shutdown because the non-essential employees go away, and it's those employees who usually process these forms and this paperwork that allows you to finally receive said tax stamp. So I wanted to mention this as well because there's a lot of things that are listed under the NFA that would be viable for you to have in the sense of preparedness, but might be harder to get here in the near future. Keep it in mind, and this is a long game purchase, so you have to spend a lot of money up front and not see anything for a very long time, but it might be worth it in the long run. Okay. Hope you understood what I'm trying to say there. Number 3, segueing from that because they are related and it's something that you should definitely be doing right now because you know how I feel about it, is getting more ammunition. Yes, it's expensive, but it's available and it exists and it's there for purchase. And you need to understand that these prices are probably not going to go down. They're not going to just plummet back to original pricing, and what we have right now might be as good as it gets. And remember a few things. One, we're in hunting season at this point, and now we're talking about hunters getting out there and trying to acquire the ammunition they need as well. But we're also talking about millions of new firearms owners throughout the entire country. And we're also talking about the fact that a lot of people are kind of comfortable right now again because, things are, seemingly, not so crazy as about a year and a half ago. Well, guess what? That crazy could show up at any point in time. And those millions of new firearms owners out there could suddenly find themselves wishing they had a little bit more. And that shortage that was much worse just recently could easily come back and be worse than it was before at any moment. So don't take this time for granted to be able to acquire more ammunition. Understand that yes, it costs more and it's going to cost you more, but it'll be worth getting because you can actually get it. Keep these things in mind because these things are showing up again, all right? This is all brand new that I recently purchased, but I will say it is a lot more money than it used to be, but I still feel good about having it. You know that. All right, moving on from there. Number 4, a very important thing for everyone in the freaking world, or at least people that I understand and know well, and that is coffee. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Importers are raising the alarm, saying that coffee is going to experience shortages possibly over the next 3 years. And that is very concerning for those of us who require it to be normal human beings on a regular basis. So make sure you're doing what you can when it comes to coffee. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can store coffee. There's a lot of different approaches you can take to when it comes to prepping coffee for the long term. There's certain companies that offer freeze-dried long-term storage coffee like My Patriot Supply and I believe Augustin Farms. So you can easily get some of those types of items in order to add to your long-term, prepper pantry. But the issue there is that it's very expensive. Now, can store other types of coffee, but just not for as long, okay? So basically instant coffee, which is what we have right here, and which you can get in these cool little packets, which perfect for bug out bags or whatever else you might need it for. But instant coffee is basically gonna last about 2 years, okay? So 2 years isn't too bad, considering the fact that you can just add hot water and have coffee. So if you add this to part of your rotational pantry, you have a viable way to continue your coffee consumption for at least the first 2 years at an SHTF event. And by then, you better believe I'll be trying to figure out how to grow coffee in North Dakota. Anyway, there's other ways you can deal with coffee too. So Invader Coffee, awesome coffee. There will be links below in case you need more coffee because you can never have enough. I will tell you that much, and they do help support this channel. But what I will say is that coffee like this, or canned coffee, the typical stuff you get at the store, the Folgers, and everything else that's at least sealed in an airtight container, aka I would have to take this and try to seal it in an airtight container, but that can last you a full year, a little bit more than a year. So yes, it's not that long in the sense of long-term storage, but if I have enough coffee to get through a year of SHTF, that might be enough time to wean off of it, and that might be enough time to maintain some form of humanity, okay? So I wanted to bring that to your attention because it's only gonna get more expensive. They're telling us that it is going to be more expensive, and it already is getting more expensive, but it will be harder to get as well. So keep that in mind because as we move into the winter months, more and more people want to drink hot beverages, and that coffee is going to be in higher and higher demand. I need coffee to survive. I think you probably do too, okay? Moving on from coffee. And this one's huge and you really need to understand it. Fuel, gasoline. You need fuel, you need ways to store it, and you need alternatives to transportation in case the fuel runs out. Right now in Britain, gas stations are running dry due to a trucker shortage that is very similar to the shortage we have here in the United States, but we're just not seeing the drastic outcome of it the same way as they are in Britain right now. But I assume that at some point it will be very likely to be had here as well. So that being said, make sure you have fuel. Make sure you have what you need in the sense of gasoline or propane or whatever it is that you need to store in order to keep things running, okay? Whether or not that's generators, vehicles, whatever it is you got, make sure you have ways to get more of that fuel. And just so you're aware, even alternative forms of transportation are also experiencing shortages. So bicycles, for example, are also having a big hard time being produced. So bike shops are struggling to have enough bicycles. So you might think that, well, if a fuel runs out, I'll grab a bike. Good luck. And just for you parents out there, that bike little Johnny wants for Christmas, you might need to get it now because they're having a big problem as well. These are 5 things that you should be trying to prep right this second. I wanted to tell you about them because, listen, not everything is going to have to just be food, water, shelter, all the C's of survival, and everything else we talk about regularly here in the preparedness community. You have to be able to pivot and change your direction and your focus from time to time to make sure you're hitting the points that are very important when the getting is good. And right now, with the 5 items I just talked about, the getting's still good to a degree. But there's a good possibility that it will be more difficult to acquire, or it will be more troublesome to get those things down the road here when things really start to get interesting. And there's a lot of indicators out there that that might be the case. So, wanted to bring this to your attention. Hopefully this list helps you. If you think of other items that should be on this list, leave them in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if you're trying to get any of the stuff that we talked about today, because honestly, you're probably in the same boat as a lot of other people. So maybe there's ways that we can network and everyone can work together to help people find the best deals or whatever else it might be. Talk to each other, make it happen. But if you need anything else from me directly, magicprepper.com is a good friend to have. Besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.